Writing is hard. Why is writing hard? Writing is a long process. And when you start writing, it can start as a hobby or something that you might have to do for work or school. But once you settle into writing, it becomes more than just a hobby. It becomes this passion. Writing is one thing that you can do in a span of a lifetime, and no one is telling you what to do. That's one of the upsides of writing, that you get to write whatever you want, whenever you want, and you have your own rules and deadlines for it. Now, back to the question of why writing is hard. Well, you would think it's easy, just picking up a pencil or getting a device of your choosing and just writing something. But if you're wanting to do this for a longer period of time, you want to actually share your writing to the world. That is what I'm saying about writing is hard. Because once you get inside that boat, there is a long process, a long process. So the first step is obviously, well, if you're a plotter, it's outlining the story and seeing where the story may go and in different directions and all that stuff. But if you're a pantser and like to write a lot, you can just write it all the way. But the first step in general is writing the story and finishing it. When it comes to writing the story, I'm going to be honest with you, it's easy and hard. The easy part is having the idea and making something out of it. And it's also very easy to just make whatever you want with it. No rules, no limitations, and all that stuff. The hard part is when you actually get to writing and addressing the situation. Well, I wouldn't say situation for writing, but the task at hand. So, not gonna lie, writing the first page is not the easiest because, okay, you're staring at a blank page, you're trying to figure out how to start the book or the writing piece of whatever genre you're writing in. You want to think about how you are going to hook the reader. Well, potential readers, because you haven't yet written it. And it's very important to have an idea of what the beginning looks like. And I'll say what the first page, don't have so many expectations with it. I know that sounds rather confusing a little bit, but once you get the gist of actually writing the story, it becomes a lot easier. And that's with any book in general. And once you finish the book, hooray, you finished the first step, because you're only 1/3 through the writing process. Because after writing the book / finishing, then you have the editing process. A lot of writers, authors, and a lot of people in general do not like the editing process. Why? Well, you had to sit there, read through the book, manuscript, and make changes. And with writing, there are going to be changes. And that's one thing to expect when it comes to writing. And you need to be willing to make adjustments. Because if not, then you're just going to end up with a good story premise, but it's a bad book because you didn't do anything to change it or to improve the quality of it. Yeah, quality versus quantity. You would rather have a great book that has been polished and been looked at rather than a long, chunky book that someone can really put down in 100 pages or less. So the editing phase is very important because that is when you can fix things. The writing process is over. You've written a book. You're like, yes, I've done it. I've got everything that was in my head onto the page. And now I'm sitting here in the editor's chair trying to fix it. And this is another part of the writing that is hard. Actually looking into your writing and actually fixing it. A good mistake when it comes to writing is actually immediately revising and editing the book. That's a big no-no. You do not want to do that. Why? Because you are coming out fresh from finishing the book and now you're going into it like, okay, I want to make changes. No, because you're going to see the book subjectively. No matter what, you're going to see it subjectively because it's your writing. But if you can put the writing aside for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, I would just recommend a few weeks. You can see, and by the next time you look over your book, you'll be like, oh, you're more likely to see the story more objectively and you'll be more open to changes. So when you're editing, because I don't like it myself, you're going to have multiple read-throughs. And I'll give my own book, Murray Mysteries, for example. So I'm kind of in the process of, wanting to publish it and all that stuff. But the editing phase, not my favorite, actually one of the worst, but it's absolutely necessary. It's a long process. When I first started revising editing, it was very early on, and I didn't really catch too much. I didn't see too many things wrong. Maybe I had a few things I didn't like about it, but it was like kind of easy fix and all that stuff, and everything else was like, okay, clear. And then over the years and up to this year, 2025, whenever I read Mermaid Mysteries again, which was like, I don't know, like the fifth, sixth, or seventh time or so, I realized that there were more mishaps and like some things I missed. There were like plenty I missed, and I even had like additional eyes a look on it, and the people I did allow to look over it, they saw grammar errors and mainly grammar errors. But when I read it for myself, particularly this year, I saw more than grammar errors. I actually saw like some dialogue that was a bit cringy, and just some things that ruined the flow of the narrative. And I literally had to get a piece of paper and just write that down, like, okay, this is something that's going on. And as I was going through that, I was identifying the flaws in my writing. And that was fun. And at the same time, like, nerve-wracking because I'm like, I had to change this all over again. And yeah, I did some read-throughs of that. And whenever I was trying to do my final proof read, I kept on editing some more because I felt like little minor errors. But a good way that I did find those errors and to make that final, I read it to myself. I literally recorded myself reading chapter by chapter, and anything that was like, oh, gosh, I made sure I cut that out and I read it again and it sounds so much better. So that was pretty much my editing process this year. And there is no right or wrong way of having a writing process. It's really what you make of it, and see how it goes. And like I said, writing is a long process that can take a lifespan. So pretty much we got like the structural part of why writing's hard. Don't worry, I'll tell you more reasons why writing's hard. I'm going to get a little bit into publishing and then I'll ramble about why writing is hard. So, publishing. I think the hardest part about publishing your writing is really the marketing. Like, who's your audience? What genre is and like how to like put the book out there pretty much. And I'll just use my strategy for example. So my plan, I kind of been teasing it for a few months. Uh, it's kind of like wumpy right now, but I have this plan about like, okay, I need to dedicate once or twice a week to like, tease it a little bit. And the closer I am towards the publishing date is when I'll reveal more and more and be like, oh yes, finally it's here, and keep pushing it and all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, that's why writing's so hard in the publishing area. Putting the book out there and finding potential readers who will like the book. But now, like just rambling about writing in general. Writing's hard because writing is hard because you have to find consistency. Writing is not a one and done thing. It's something that is an ongoing process, and if you love the craft of writing, you need to find some consistency with it. I'm not saying you have to write every day. There's people who are going to tell you to write every day. Some bad advice. Don't burn yourself out. But having some dedicated time throughout the week to write is a good way to build that consistency and to strengthen that muscle memory of writing, and you just get into the habit of writing as well. And making writing a habit like just like enhances like your quality of life, and it also gives you something to do as well. How else is writing hard? I guess when it comes to that is the expectations. So when you want to write something, like let's just say you want to write like this well-known author, and you want to make this massive world with these very, very strong led characters, and yeah, that's already kind of like a lot of expectations. When it comes to writing, you shouldn't really have lots of expectations. Like, it's good to start small and work your way there. And the more often you write, and you get that experience, it's really about getting that experience in writing, and you'll catch things that you might have not caught like earlier in your writing journey or experience or in the process in general. And I'm not going to say it becomes entirely easier, but you'll feel more comfortable when it comes to writing, and you can set your expectations more ambitiously whenever you get that more experience of writing. And through my experience, and I'm going to use my experience for example because I'm currently going through it and I'm the expert of my own writing. So when I started, I was pretty inexperienced in a way. Like, I wrote plenty of things at school and all, and but I didn't really take writing seriously like I really want to do it as a passion. And when I did, it was my freshman year of high school. And I really liked writing. I wanted to keep that consistency and gain experience in writing. I really wanted to pursue writing for myself. And at first, I was like, okay, yes, I wrote my first book, Marine Mysteries. Uh, and then, I kind of went to the next one. I was like, oh, I got another book. And, it was really fun. When I got to my third book, I was like, taking me longer than I wanted to, but sometimes that does happen. I was in like a lot of writer's block, and part of that was with school and extracurricular activities. I'm not going to blame that, but the story just took longer to just come to me, especially when it came to like the middle of the story. But throughout that experience, particularly with a series, like I really improved with some basic things about a story, and I expanded more of my characters and the world building and all that. And going into my my second year into writing as a passion and taking it more seriously, I learned so much, like a lot. 2023, I found a writing buddy who was like focusing on my grammar in particular, and gosh, it was bad. Like, not like horrendous, but in places it was really bad. And yeah, but I took that, I learned from that, and I made sure to make my writing better. And then, kind of in mid 2023, I was writing a new series because I finished my mysteries 2023 in May. I wrote a new series, and I was finding it more challenging. It's good. It's good for writing to be challenging. It just um it just prepares you for many things. And also, I was in a lot of writer's block, and I felt like I couldn't get past the beginning of the story, and that was crazy, really crazy. But I along the way, I just learned so much. I've watched endless writing videos. I've experienced with different things with writing, and it's really about that self experimentation that I did that helped me improve in my writing and write better stories and longer. And I even started writing short stories and towards the end of 2023, and I really enjoyed that, and it expanded my range of storytelling. And whenever I did that, it just expanded more stories into my mind, and I really wanted to write them. And even though I'm not writing those short stories yet, I had a great idea of having the titles for those short stories. And it gives me a good refresher of what that story is about. And I even made a timeline, like little event catalogs or blah, 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 blah. I just expanded my ways of immersing myself into the story, whether it's directly towards the plot, characters, or like the series in general. It could be like, I don't know, I created a menu from non-existent restaurant. That was fun. I also, like I said, I created a timeline that kind of set up this universe for a series. And like really with writing, there's so many things that you can do with it. It's really what you make of it. And really the hardest part about writing is like, are you going to do it? Like, how dedicated are you to write the story you want to tell and finish it? And I believe that's what a lot of people like don't get to, because a lot of people can say, I want to write this story and all that stuff. But how many people actually finish that story is the question. And like, you can have so many reasons of why you didn't finish that story. Yeah, well, I can have reasons about that too. I currently have a story that I haven't finished yet. It's been 2 years. But I could say that's actually an excuse. Instead, what is the key reason why the story isn't finished? It's because you haven't put in that work and leading into finishing that story. It's really how it's really about how bad you want that story to come out, how bad you want that story to be out there, like having that story out there for everyone to know, or maybe your friends and all. How passionate are you to tell that story?